Hey AV Clubbers, it's time for another installment of DVR Club. Today we're talking about the season finale of Better Call Saul, Marco. I'm John Teti, your senior editor, and I'm here with...
Josh Modell, editor-in-chief.
Ta-da! Josh, we're already seeing some pushback on this finale, which I loved. I mean, this is the kind of show that just makes me excited to be at the AV Club because I love to talk about this stuff. But we're seeing a little... maybe just a touch of dissatisfaction with this one online.
There's a little too much art in it, perhaps, for some people.
No.
I thought it was very good, but I understand some of the criticisms.
I got more deeply into this one because I thought it was so emotionally rich and honest, and I think we had to see Jimmy go back to Cicero, and we had to see him team up with Marco. I started to notice this in Bingo, where there's this shot there in the parking garage, and the number 3 is really highlighted. So I started looking for 3s. And in that episode, for example, in Bingo, Jimmy thinks he's Mike's lawyer, thinks he's on his side against that cop, and then Mike sort of dismisses him, and he realizes, oh, they're not actually allies. He also, then of course the big reveal was he thought it was him and Chuck against Hamlin, and then it turns out it was actually Chuck and Hamlin conspiring against him. So he goes to Cicero, and he's back in this 2-on-1 situation, right? He and Marco are the team, and they just work over this series of marks. So then he comes back, and he, I think that life invigorated him and filled him with new life. And so I love that he did not even go in for the interview with this highfalutin law firm.
My criticism would be that I felt like it was a little abrupt. Kind of going back and thinking about the whole episode, maybe it wasn't. Maybe all signs pointed to this. But I did feel like maybe it was a little easy that it felt like it clicked like a light switch for him.
I agree with you. I thought it was abrupt. I expected him to go into he was practicing his patter for the interview, right? But I think that the abruptness of it was a signal to the viewer, made it stand out more to the viewer that this really is, it's not just another one of Jimmy's, like, maybe I'll go this way, maybe I'll go that way, which we've seen a lot this season. I think they made it clear that this was a choice.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about potent quotables, which is a nod to our friend Alex Trebek.
Josh is really good at naming things, and Josh named this segment, Potent Quotables. What's your potent quotable, Josh?
Mine was definitely when Hamlin and Jimmy are having a conversation and sort of coming to peace with each other. The quote to me that was really sort of a knife in the heart to Jimmy was, remember when I used to call you Charlie Hustle, or remember I called you Charlie Hustle. And it was just like talking down to him, giving him a little pat on the head like he's a little dog.
I always liked you, Jimmy. Remember? I used to call you Charlie Hustle.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that is not what Jimmy wants to be. He wants to be on the same level as these people. He went and got his law degree, he found this case, and he can't get their respect.
My potent quotable comes from Marco, and he says, I hate to break it to you, but the guy doesn't even like you. And he's talking about Chuck to Jimmy.
Chuck's in Albuquerque. Again, all due respect, Chuck's a stuck-up douchebag. I hate to break it to you, but he doesn't even like you.
And it's such a great contrast with earlier in the episode when Jimmy asked Kim, why didn't you just tell me about Chuck? And you can tell Kim actually wanted to. You can tell she cares about Jimmy, but she didn't. She said, I didn't want you to hate your brother. I think that's an important distinction because Jimmy has been surrounded by these people who, to varying degrees, are looking out for his best interests, but think that they know better than him. They don't tell him everything because they think they know what's best. It's true of Hamlin, it's true of Chuck, and now it's true of Kim. And even though it comes from this caring place, I think he does see it as a betrayal. Whereas Marco will tell him correctly, your brother doesn't even like you, and he doesn't even hesitate to tell him that. He just comes right out with it. And that, to me, is a very important distinction for Jimmy, and it informs what he does at the end of the episode. Josh, I'm going to nominate an inanimate object of the week. Hey, I made it through that sentence.
You did it.
It's the microphone that Jimmy uses at the bingo hall. It's the Sony ECM51. That's
of course.
A particular model, as we all know. If it's not an authentic ECM51, boy, they made a great replica of it. But this is the classic game show microphone used most famously by Gene Rayburn and Bob Barker. It just shows the show's great attention to detail because this would be the best microphone for Jimmy to use to gain credibility with his older clients. And in this episode, he uses it to deliver this monologue that we heard so much about.
One little Chicago sunroof, and suddenly I'm Charles Manson? And that's where it all went off the rails. I've been paying for it ever since. That's why I'm here.
It was not the most important part of the episode, though it was an incredible acting performance by Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah, I agree with you that it wasn't really the most important part of the episode. It was fun, and I'll tell you what got me excited is those shots inside of all of the crazy shots that Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul have used. You know, always through this transparency, often looking up. Like this bingo one with the balls humming around really made me feel this internal agitation that Jimmy's experiencing. Josh, it's now we have arrived at Speculation Corner. I know it looks the same as where we've been all along. My question for Speculation Corner is, when are we going to see Saul Goodman?
I feel like it's going to happen fairly quickly in the second season, although part of me hopes that it doesn't. Because we got, people were wondering, well, will it happen at the end of this season? I'm very glad that it didn't. I'm glad that we're spending a longer time with this guy. I'm glad that it's not sort of spelled out. But I do feel like, he's made this choice, and he's very clearly made a choice. He turned the car around, and that's a big choice. And I feel like those other choices probably will come in quickly.
I'm with you. I think that Saul will emerge in the second season, but I'm also with you in that I think it could happen even in the last episode of the series, which I hope is some time from now. It was so inspired to give him a different name in this series and let Jimmy become his own person. He's not a caricature. He is this full-bodied, complex person as we arrive at the end of this first season. And I think that, maybe it's a superficial distinction, but I think that having it be Jimmy instead of Saul really allowed Bob Odenkirk to fill out this role. That does it for this installment of DVR Club. This has been Josh Modell, and it still will be after the cameras turn off, but you won't see him anymore.
That's true.
And I'm John Teti. Thanks for watching. Bye.
I'm not waving.
Josh, wave.